Hey there, it's Duchos, and welcome to another historical ride. Today, we're diving into something that really happened, and it might just surprise you more than a pop quiz on a Saturday morning. So sit back, grab something good, and let's see what history has in store for us this time. This is Duchos history without the boring stuff. The Battle of Fulford, when the Vikings knocked on England's door. Imagine you are a farmer in 11th century England. You wake up before sunrise, feed your animals, and start working the land. Just a few hours into your day, someone shows up and tells you to grab a weapon and prepare for war. Not exactly your typical afternoon. Why? Because a fleet of Viking ships has landed on the coast. And this is not just any Viking raid. It is a full-scale invasion led by King Harald Hardrada of Norway. He is one of the most feared warriors of his age. Some say he is the last great Viking. But Harald is not coming alone. Alongside him rides Tostig Godwinson, the exiled brother of the English King Harold. And together they have their sights set on conquering England. It is September of the year 1066. England is a kingdom on the edge. In the south, everyone is watching the English Channel, waiting for Duke William of Normandy to invade. But while all eyes are turned that way, danger is already coming from the north. Harald and Tostig land with a massive army. 6,000 experienced Viking warriors march inland. 4,000 more stay behind to guard their ships. Their first goal is to take the city of York. If they can seize the north, they can hold it and perhaps take the crown. But standing in their way are two powerful Anglo-Saxon lords, Edwin of Mercia and Morcar of Northumbria. They raise an army of about 5,000 men. Unfortunately, most of them are not professional soldiers. They are peasants, farmers like you, called up under the ancient system of military duty. Only about 1,000 men in the army are true warriors. These are the huscarls, elite bodyguards trained to fight with massive axes and chainmail armor. They fight in tight units, two swinging axes, one guarding with a spear. The rest of the army is made up of local militias, organized by landowners called thanes. These fighters have some training, but not nearly enough to go head-to-head with veteran Vikings. Edwin and Morcar know they are outnumbered, so they use the land to their advantage. They choose high ground near the village of Fulford, with a river on one side and marshy ground on the other. If the Vikings want to break through, they will have to squeeze through a narrow, muddy path.
It is a clever move, but will it be enough?
On the morning of September 20th, the Viking army begins to approach. The Anglo-Saxons do not wait. Morcar leads an early attack on the Viking right flank, where some of the less experienced Norwegians are positioned. For a moment, the Anglo-Saxons seem to be winning. They push the Vikings back. But then, they get stuck in the mud. The wet ground slows them down. The Vikings stop retreating. They dig in, hold the line and push back. Losses on both sides begin to rise. Then Harald Hardrada makes his move. He strengthens the center of his line and strikes hard at Edwin's position on the right. Edwin only has militia fighters under his command, and they cannot stand against trained Viking warriors for long. The Anglo-Saxon right flank starts to collapse. Soldiers break and flee toward York. That leaves Morcar's forces exposed. They are still fighting hard on the left side of the field, but now they are isolated, and they cannot see the disaster unfolding on the other side. And then comes the final blow. Fresh Viking reinforcements arrive from behind the Anglo-Saxon left flank. They have marched straight through the marshes that the defenders thought were impossible to cross. It is a devastating surprise. Surrounded on two sides, Morcar's men are trapped in a deadly Viking pincer movement. Confusion spreads. Formations fall apart. The field turns into chaos. Many Anglo-Saxon soldiers are cut down where they stand. Others try to run. Edwin and Morcar manage to escape with a few survivors. They make it back to York, but their army has been broken. The city has no choice. Just a few days later, York surrenders to the Vikings. In return for their lives, the townspeople agree to support Harald Hardrada's claim to the English throne. They even send hostages to prove their loyalty. The Vikings camp at Stamford Bridge, waiting for the next move. The Battle of Fulford is over. The Vikings have won, but the story is not finished. The year 1066 was no ordinary year for England. It was a year of chaos, ambition, and 3 rival claims to the throne. When King Edward the Confessor died without an heir, it set off a chain reaction that would bring war from every direction. Harold Godwinson, the most powerful nobleman in England, was crowned king, but his rule was immediately challenged. Duke William of Normandy claimed that Harold had promised him the throne, and far to the north, Harold Hardrada believed he had a rightful claim too, based on an old agreement between earlier kings. Hardrada was not just a king, he was a warrior legend. He had fought across Europe, served in the Byzantine Empire, and returned to Norway as a hardened leader. He believed he was destined to rule England, and he was willing to fight for it. Tostig, the brother of King Harold, had been exiled years earlier after losing support in Northumbria. Bitter and vengeful, he found a powerful ally in Hardrada. Together they planned to invade the north, gain support from local lords, and march south to seize the throne. Their invasion was bold and swift. Sailing up the Humber River, they landed without serious resistance and began moving toward York. Their army was disciplined, brutal, and confident. They believed they could break the Anglo-Saxon defenses and take the city with ease. But Edwin and Morcar were not ready to surrender. Despite limited resources and little time to prepare, they pulled together every man they could. From villages and estates came peasants and militiamen, knowing the odds were against them. Still, they stood ready to defend their homeland. The shock of Fulford rippled far beyond York. News of the defeat reached King Harold in the south, just as he was preparing for a possible Norman invasion. Without hesitation, Harold gathered his elite housecarls and marched nearly 200 miles north in just 4 days. This forced march was one of the most incredible military efforts of the time. Harold knew he could not allow Hardrada to secure the north. If he did, it would split England in two and make any defense against Normandy nearly impossible. What happened next at Stamford Bridge would become legendary. Harold caught the Viking army by surprise, and in the fierce battle that followed, both Harold Hardrada and Tostig were killed. The Viking dream of conquering England died with them, but victory came at a cost. Harold's army was exhausted and bloodied, and just 3 weeks later Duke William of Normandy landed on the southern coast. Harold had no choice but to march all the way back south again, and on October 14th, 1066, he faced William at the Battle of Hastings. Fulford was the first domino to fall in the dramatic chain of events that changed England forever. It showed how vulnerable the kingdom was, it drained the strength of its defenders, and it gave William the opening he needed. When you trace the path to the Norman conquest, it begins here, with the clash of shield and axe at Fulford, and the thunder of Viking ambition on English soil. Thanks for watching all the way through. If you liked the video, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and feel free to share it. It really helps others who care about history too. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next, and if you enjoyed this one. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next video.